The morning sun peeked through the worn curtains as Maria's alarm buzzed for the third time. She groaned and reached out to silence it, her body still aching from yesterday's double shift. The small apartment was quiet except for the distant rumble of city buses and the occasional car horn. Just another Tuesday in the life of Maria Santos, waitress at Café Bella for 3 years and counting. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, her feet finding the cool wooden floor. The routine was so familiar she could do it with her eyes closed. Shower, brush teeth, pull her dark hair into a neat ponytail, put on the black pants and white button-up shirt that made up her work uniform. As she buttoned her shirt, her eyes drifted to the corner of her bedroom where the upright piano sat covered with a thin layer of dust. Maria paused, her fingers hovering over the last button. She walked over to the piano and lifted the cover, revealing the ivory keys that once were the center of her world. Without sitting down, she played a quick scale, the notes slightly out of tune but still beautiful. A sad smile crossed her face as she closed the cover again and turned away. "Not today," she whispered to herself. "Maybe someday." The bus was crowded as usual, filled with people heading to work with tired eyes and travel mugs. Maria held onto a pole, checking her watch. She was cutting it close today. Her manager, Tony, wasn't a stickler for punctuality, but she prided herself on being reliable. It was one of the reasons she'd kept this job for so long while other waitresses came and went. Café Bella sat on a corner in a busy part of town, nestled between a bookstore and a dry cleaner's. The red awning had faded to a dull pink over the years, but the place had charm. The bell above the door jingled as Maria pushed it open, the warm smell of coffee and freshly baked bread greeting her. "There she is," Tony called from behind the counter. He was a big man with a bigger voice, his hands busy wiping down the espresso machine. "Thought you might be playing hooky today." "Sorry I'm almost late," Maria said, tying her apron around her waist. "Bus was running behind. Relax, you're right on time." "Lisa's the one who didn't show up again," Tony said, nodding toward the empty section by the window. "You mind taking her tables too? I'll make it worth your while." Maria nodded, though her feet already ached at the thought of covering twice the floor space. "No problem." The morning rush hit like a wave. Business people wanting their coffee to go, regulars who lingered over breakfast and the newspaper, tourists consulting maps while ordering pancakes. Maria moved between tables with practiced ease, balancing plates along her arm, remembering who wanted extra syrup and who needed their coffee black. "Order up," called Hector from the kitchen window, sliding 2 plates of eggs and hash browns onto the counter. Maria grabbed them, making a mental note that the one with extra toast went to the old man in the corner who always left her exact change. No tip. By noon, the lunch crowd had replaced the breakfast regulars. Maria's order pad was filling up with scribbles, her pen moving quickly as a table of office workers all changed their minds about sides at the last minute. "And can I get that salad with dressing on the side?" asked a woman in a crisp business suit. "And no croutons. I'm trying to cut carbs." "Of course," Maria said with her customer service smile. As she turned to head back to the kitchen, she caught herself humming softly. It was something she did without thinking. Little bits of music that played constantly in her head, finding their way out when she was busy. "You've got a nice voice," said an older man sitting alone at a 2-person table. He had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "That's Debussy, isn't it?" "Claire de Lune?" Maria stopped, surprised. Most people never recognized what she was humming, especially not classical pieces. "Yes, it is." "You know it?" "My wife was a music teacher for 40 years, he said with a wistful smile. "I can't play a note myself, but I know the good stuff when I hear it." Their conversation was cut short by a crash from across the restaurant. One of the new busboys had dropped a tray of dishes, and Tony was already rushing over with a broom. Maria excused herself and hurried to help clean up the mess. The afternoon lull finally came around 2:30. Maria leaned against the counter, massaging her lower back. Her feet were killing her, and she still had 4 hours left on her shift. She watched as Tony counted receipts at the register, his reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. "You know," he said without looking up, "you're wasted here." "What do you mean?" Maria asked, though she knew. "I see you tapping out piano parts on the counter when you think nobody's watching, and you're always humming something fancy." He looked up at her now. "You went to music school, right? Before you started here?" Maria nodded slowly. "For a while. Had to drop out when Mom got sick." Medical bills and all that. Tony's face softened. How is she doing? Better, finally. The new treatment's working, but she trailed off, not needing to explain the cost. You ever think about going back? To school, I mean. Maria laughed, but there was no humor in it. Every day. But thinking doesn't pay tuition. The bell above the door jingled, and both of them looked up to see a group of teenagers coming in, backpacks slung over their shoulders. Maria grabbed her order pad and headed over to their table, pushing the conversation and the dreams it stirred up to the back of her mind. By the time evening came, Maria's hair was falling out of its ponytail, and she had a coffee stain on her sleeve from a near miss with a customer who gestured too widely while telling a story. The dinner crowd was trickling in, mostly families and couples looking for a casual meal. Can you handle the last 2 hours alone? Tony asked as he hung up the phone. Lisa just called in sick for tomorrow too, and I need to line up someone to cover. I've got it, Maria assured him, though she was running on fumes. Go do what you need to do. After Tony left, the place got unusually busy for a Tuesday night. Maria found herself running between tables, her customer service smile becoming more and more forced. Just as she was bringing a family of 4 their dinner, the front door opened again. A woman walked in alone. She was older, perhaps in her 60s, with silver hair cut in an elegant bob and clothes that looked expensive in an understated way. She chose a small table by the window and sat with perfect posture, placing her leather handbag carefully on the chair beside her. Maria grabbed a menu and water and approached the table. Welcome to Café Bella. Can I start you with something to drink? The woman looked up, her gaze direct and assessing in a way that made Maria stand a little straighter. Earl Grey tea if you have it. With lemon, no milk? Of course, Maria said, setting down the water. I'll give you a few minutes with the menu. As she walked away to prepare the tea, Maria felt the woman's eyes following her. It wasn't uncommon for solo diners to watch the staff. People dining alone often sought out small interactions to fill the silence. But something about this woman's attention felt different. It wasn't unfriendly, just intense. When Maria returned with the tea, carefully placing the saucer down, the woman spoke again. You move your hands like a musician. Maria nearly dropped the small plate of lemon wedges she was holding. I'm sorry? Your hands, the woman repeated, nodding toward them. You have excellent finger independence and control. Pianist, I'm guessing? Maria set down the lemon, suddenly conscious of her movements. I used to play. It's been a while. The woman smiled, and the expression transformed her serious face. Some things stay in the body forever. I'm Eleanor, by the way. Maria, she replied automatically, then remembered herself. Have you decided what you'd like to order? The rest of the evening passed in a blur of orders and bills and clearing tables. The woman, Eleanor, ordered a light dinner and ate with the same precision with which she did everything. She didn't try to engage Maria in conversation again, seeming to sense how busy the young waitress was. But occasionally, when Maria passed by with dishes for another table, she felt Eleanor's eyes on her hands, just before closing time. As Maria was wiping down empty tables, she noticed Eleanor was still there, now reading a book she'd pulled from her bag. Maria approached hesitantly. I'm sorry, but we're closing soon. Can I get you anything else before then? Eleanor closed her book. No, thank you. I've kept you long enough. She reached for her purse and took out her wallet. After paying her bill, she hesitated, then pulled something from her bag and placed it on the table alongside a generous tip. It was a flyer, printed on heavy cream paper. Regional Piano Competition, the headline read. Open auditions this Friday, Eleanor said quietly. You should come. Before Maria could respond, Eleanor was standing, gathering her things with efficient movements. Thank you for the excellent service, Maria. I hope to see you again, perhaps in a different setting next time. And then she was gone, the bell above the door jingling softly as she left. Maria picked up the flyer, her heart beating a little faster as she read the details. On the back, in elegant handwriting, was a note. It's never too late to return to what you love. Maria tucked the flyer into her apron pocket, feeling its weight like a small stone. As she finished closing up the cafe, turning off lights and counting out her tips, her mind kept returning to the piano in her apartment and the layer of dust on its keys. For the first time in a long while, her fingers itched to play something more than quick scales. Maybe, she whispered to herself as she locked the cafe door behind her. Maybe someday is closer than I thought. Maria couldn't sleep that night. The competition flyer sat on her nightstand, catching the blue glow of her alarm clock. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Eleanor's knowing smile and heard her words. It's never too late to return to what you love. Around 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep altogether. Her small apartment was quiet except for the occasional car passing on the street below. She switched on her bedside lamp and picked up the flyer again, running her fingers over the elegant lettering. Regional piano competition. Open auditions this Friday, just 3 days away. Maria padded barefoot across her bedroom to the piano in the corner. She lifted the dusty cover and sat down on the bench, wincing as it creaked under her weight. When was the last time she'd actually played? Really played, not just a quick scale or a few notes? Her fingers hovered over the keys. She pressed 1, middle C, and the note hung in the air, slightly flat from lack of tuning. Maria closed her eyes and placed both hands in position, muscle memory guiding her fingers to their proper places. She began to play softly, hesitantly at first, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, the piece she used to play when she couldn't sleep as a teenager. Her fingers felt stiff, awkward. Wrong notes slipped in and her timing was off. But she kept playing, pushing through the mistakes, finding the melody buried beneath years of neglect. By the time she finished, tears were streaming down her face. It wasn't good, nowhere near competition level, but it was something. A spark still alive after all this time. A sharp knock on the wall startled her. "Sorry, Mrs. Chen," Maria called out, suddenly remembering her elderly neighbor. It was the middle of the night, after all. But instead of the complaint she expected, Mrs. Chen's muffled voice came through the wall. "No, no. Keep playing. Very beautiful." Maria laughed, wiping her tears away with the back of her hand. She looked at her watch. Almost 3 a.m. now, tomorrow, she promised, both to Mrs. Chen and to herself. The alarm went off 3 hours later. Maria dragged herself out of bed, exhausted but with a strange energy humming beneath her fatigue. As she dressed for work, she found herself looking at the piano differently. Not as a relic of a former life, but as a possibility. Café Bella was busy as usual. Tony greeted her with a worried look. "You okay? You look like you didn't sleep." Maria tied her apron, stifling a yawn. "I'm fine. Just up late." She moved through her shift in a daze, taking orders and serving food while her mind kept returning to the piano. During her break, she sat in the back alley with her sandwich untouched, watching YouTube videos of piano competitions on her phone. The players' hands flew over the keys with breathtaking speed and precision. How could she possibly compete with that after years away from serious practice? "What's got you so distracted today?" Tony asked as the afternoon lull set in. "You've mixed up 3 orders and you never mix up orders." Maria hesitated, then pulled the flyer from her pocket and smoothed it out on the counter. "A customer gave me this last night." Tony read it, his eyebrows rising. "Piano competition? Fancy?" He looked up at her. "You thinking about it?" "I don't know," Maria admitted. "It's been so long since I really played. And I'd need Friday off for the audition." Tony didn't even hesitate. "Done. What? Friday, you're off. I'll cover your shift myself if I have to." Maria stared at him. "Just like that?" Tony shrugged, but his eyes were kind. "You've covered for everyone else in this place 100 times over. Besides," he gestured around the cafe, "you really want to be serving pancakes your whole life?" That evening, Maria went straight to the piano when she got home. She played for hours, working through pieces she used to know by heart. Her fingers began to remember, finding their way across the keys with growing confidence. When she made a mistake, she stopped, backed up, and tried again. And again. And again. Mrs. Chen knocked on her door around 8 p.m. with a bowl of homemade soup. "You need to eat," she said firmly, pressing the bowl into Maria's hands. "Cannot play good if you are hungry." As Maria ate at her tiny kitchen table, Mrs. Chen settled herself on the piano bench. "I listened through wall for many months when you first move in. Then you stop. Why?" Maria stirred her soup. "My mom got sick. Cancer. I had to drop out of music school to help with the bills and take care of her." Mrs. Chen nodded solemnly. "And now? Your mother?" "She's better," Maria said with a small smile. "The treatment worked. She's living with my aunt in Florida now, where it's warmer." "So now you play again," Mrs. Chen said. It wasn't a question. "Good. Too much talent to waste." After Mrs. Chen left, Maria returned to the piano with renewed determination. She played until her fingers ached and her back screamed for rest. When she finally crawled into bed around midnight, she set her alarm an hour earlier than usual. She would practice in the morning before work. The next day at the cafe, Tony called her into his office during her break. "Got something for you," he said, handing her a card. It was signed by the entire staff, even the grumpy cook who barely spoke to anyone. "Good luck with the audition" was written across the top in Tony's messy handwriting. "We took up a collection too," Tony added, pressing an envelope into her hand. "Not much, but enough to get your piano tuned before Friday." Maria was speechless. She opened the envelope. There was indeed enough for a piano tuning with a little left over. "I can't accept this," she began, but Tony held up a hand. "You can and you will. We're all rooting for you, kid." Tears pricked at Maria's eyes. "I don't even know if I'm going to go through with it." Tony crossed his arms. "Well, decide fast because I already called my buddy who tunes pianos. He's coming to your place tonight at 6. Maria laughed, shaking her head in disbelief. "You're impossible." "I'm efficient," Tony corrected with a grin. That night, as promised, the piano tuner arrived at Maria's apartment. He was a thin man named Paul with nimble fingers and a patient smile. As he worked on her piano, Maria paced nervously. "So, competition, huh?" Paul asked as he tightened a string. "What are you playing?" "I don't know yet," Maria admitted. "I used to play Chopin's Ballet No. 1, but it's been years." Paul nodded. "Good choice. Difficult, but shows range. Press this key for me." Maria pressed the key he indicated, listening as the note rang out. "Pure and true for the first time in ages. You know," Paul said casually as he moved to the next string. "I tune for some of the judges in that competition. They're looking for technical skill, sure, but what really gets their attention is heart. You can teach technique, but you can't teach someone to play with feeling." By the time he finished, the piano sounded like new. Maria thanked him profusely, trying to tip him, but he refused. "Just let me know how the audition goes," he said with a wink. "I might come watch if you make it to the finals." After he left, Maria sat at her freshly tuned piano, feeling the weight of the decision before her. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. "Mom, it's me. Sorry to call so late." Maria took a deep breath. "I need your advice." Her mother's voice was warm and familiar even through the phone. "What is it, sweetheart?" Maria explained about Eleanor, the competition, everything. When she finished, there was a brief silence on the other end. "You know what I'm going to say, don't you?" Her mother finally responded. "That I should be practical. That we can't afford for me to chase dreams right now," Maria said, the words heavy in her mouth. "No," her mother said firmly. "I'm going to say that you've put your life on hold for too long. First for school, then for me. It's time you did something for yourself. But what if I fail? What if I make a fool of myself?" Her mother's laugh was gentle. "Then you'll know. But what if you don't? What if this is your chance?" After they hung up, Maria sat in silence for a long moment. Then she opened her laptop and searched for Chopin's Ballade No. 1. She found a recording by a famous pianist and listened intently, her fingers moving slightly in her lap, tracing the patterns they would need to make. Then she placed her hands on the keys and began to play along with the recording. She made mistakes, many of them, but kept going. When the piece ended, she started it again. And again, Mrs. Chen knocked on the wall around 10 p.m. "Very good. Much better than yesterday." Maria smiled. "Thank you." She played for another hour, then set her alarm for 5 a.m. As she lay in bed, her fingers still moved, practicing the difficult passages in her mind. For the first time in years, she fell asleep thinking not of bills or work schedules, but of music. Thursday was her last day to practice before the audition. Tony had arranged for her to have the morning off, so she played for hours, recording herself on her phone, listening back critically, and then trying again. By afternoon, her hands were cramping, but she could make it through the entire piece without stopping. When she arrived at the cafe for her evening shift, Tony handed her a small box. "What's this?" she asked, opening it to find a simple silver bracelet with a piano charm. "From all of us," he said, "for good luck tomorrow." Maria slipped it on her wrist, deeply touched by the gesture. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll remember us little people when you're famous," Tony joked. As she worked her shift, several regular customers mentioned hearing about her audition. News traveled fast in a small cafe. An elderly couple who came in every Thursday pressed a $20 bill into her hand. For a taxi tomorrow. A college student who always sat in the corner studying gave her a thumbs up. "Knock 'em dead," he said as he left. By closing time, Maria felt a strange calm settling over her. Whatever happened tomorrow, she would play her best. She would honor the music that had been her first love, and the people who believed in her enough to help her get to this point. At home, she played the piece one last time, not for practice but for pleasure. Her fingers found the keys without hesitation now, drawing out the melody with confidence and emotion. The music filled her small apartment, spilling out through the thin walls and open window into the night. When she finished, she heard applause, Mrs. Chen through the wall, and surprisingly a couple of voices from the street below. Maria looked out her window to see two passers-by looking up, smiling and clapping. "Beautiful," one called up to her. Maria waved, laughing, then closed the window. She laid out her clothes for tomorrow, the nicest outfit she owned, a simple blue dress she'd worn to her cousin's wedding last year. As she set her alarm for the morning, she looked at the competition, flyer one last time, Eleanor's elegant handwriting catching the light. "It's never too late to return to what you love. We'll see," Maria whispered to herself, a flutter of nerves and excitement in her stomach. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. Maria woke before her alarm, her heart already racing. The morning light was just beginning to filter through her curtains as she sat up, running through mental checklists. Today was the day. The audition. She showered quickly, the hot water helping to calm her nerves slightly. As she dried her hair, she couldn't stop her hands from shaking. What was she thinking? She wasn't ready for this. She hadn't performed in front of anyone in years, let alone a panel of judges. The piano seemed to watch her from the corner of her bedroom, keys now gleaming after yesterday's tuning. Maria walked over and played a quick scale, the notes ringing clear and true. She took a deep breath and began her warm-up exercises, the familiar movements centering her. A text from Tony lit up her phone. "Whole cafe's rooting for you. Go show them what you've got." Maria smiled, grateful for the encouragement. She continued to practice for another hour, going through the trickiest sections of the Chopin piece one last time. Her fingers were more cooperative today, finding the right keys with growing confidence. At 9:30, she stopped playing and got dressed. The blue dress fit well, simple but elegant. She put her hair up, applied a touch of makeup, and fastened the silver bracelet with the piano charm around her wrist. Her reflection in the mirror looked like someone else, not the tired waitress in a food-stained apron, but a musician ready to perform. A knock on her door made her jump. "Coming!" she called, grabbing her bag and the sheet music she wouldn't need but brought for comfort. To her surprise, Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway, dressed in her Sunday best. "I drive you," she announced. "No bus today. Important day needs proper arrival." "You have a car?" Maria asked, surprised. Mrs. Chen smiled mysteriously. "My nephew's car. He loaned me for today." The car turned out to be a gleaming black SUV that looked brand new. Mrs. Chen twirled the keys proudly. "He'd trust me. I only drive twice a year." That wasn't exactly reassuring, but Maria was too touched by the gesture to worry about her neighbor's driving skills. They made it to the audition venue, a grand concert hall downtown, with only 2 minor traffic violations and 1 horn-honking incident. As Mrs. Chen pulled up to the entrance, Maria's nervousness returned full force. The building was intimidating, all glass and stone with wide steps leading to massive doors. People were going in and out, many carrying instrument cases or folders of music. They all looked like they belonged there. Maria didn't feel like she did. "You go," Mrs. Chen said firmly, giving Maria a little push. "I find parking, then come watch." "You can't watch the auditions," Maria explained. "Only the judges are allowed in." "Then I wait," Mrs. Chen declared. "Go now. Show them." Maria nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the car. She walked up the steps slowly, her nice shoes, rarely worn, already pinching her toes. Inside, the lobby was buzzing with activity. A sign directed competition participants to a registration table. She got in line behind a young man with a violin case who was talking animatedly with a friend about his repertoire. Ahead of him, 2 Well-dressed women discussed their conservatory professors. Everyone seemed to know each other, or at least know of each other. They all spoke the same language of music schools, famous teachers, and previous competitions. When Maria reached the front of the line, a volunteer with a clipboard looked up with a practiced smile. Name and instrument? Maria Santos. Piano. The volunteer scanned her list. Santos. Ah, here you are. You're in Group C, audition room 3. They're running about 20 minutes behind schedule, so you have some time. Warm-up rooms are down that hallway if you need one. Maria took the audition number card she was handed and made her way to where other Group C participants were waiting. She sat on a bench watching as people came and went. Some looked confident, others nervous. A few were running through finger exercises or humming quietly to themselves. A young woman sat down next to her, clutching sheet music. "First time?" she asked kindly. Maria nodded. "Is it that obvious?" The woman laughed. "You look how I felt last year. I'm Lily, by the way." Maria. "Are you a student?" "Juilliard," Lily confirmed. "Second year." "You?" "I'm a waitress, actually." Lily's eyebrows rose in surprise, but she didn't seem judgmental. "Really? That's different. Most people here are either students or teachers." Before Maria could respond, the door to audition room 3 opened and a harried-looking man with a clipboard emerged. "Group C, numbers 1 through 5, please be ready. We're starting in 5 minutes." Maria looked down at her card. Number 4. Her mouth went dry. "That's me," Lily said, standing up and smoothing her skirt. "I'm number 2. Good luck, waitress." She winked and moved toward the door. Maria sat alone, her heart hammering. She closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing the way her old piano teacher had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Focus on the music, not the audience. "Maria?" She opened her eyes to see Eleanor standing before her, elegant as ever in a tailored suit, a judge's badge hanging around her neck. "You came," Eleanor said, a smile warming her serious face. "I almost didn't," Maria admitted. Eleanor nodded as if she understood completely. "The hardest part is walking through the door. The rest is just you and the piano." She checked her watch. "I need to get back in there, just remember, play from here." She touched her heart briefly, then turned and disappeared back into the audition room. One by one, the numbers were called. Number 1, a middle-aged man who looked like a professor, went in and came out 15 minutes later looking satisfied. Lily went next, emerging with a flush of excitement on her face. Number 3 was a teenage boy who looked like he might be sick. When he came out, his expression was unreadable. Number 4, Maria Santos. Maria stood on shaky legs and walked to the door. The volunteer gave her an encouraging nod as she opened it for her. The audition room was smaller than Maria had imagined, with a gorgeous grand piano at its center. 3 judges sat at a table, Eleanor and 2 men, one older with gray hair and glasses, the other younger with a stern expression. The older man looked up as she entered. "Miss Santos?" "Whenever you're ready." Maria approached the piano, adjusting the bench to her height. The keys gleamed under the bright lights, familiar yet strange. This wasn't her dusty upright at home. This was a concert grand worth more than she made in a year. She placed her hands on the keys, surprised by how cool they felt. She took a deep breath, trying to remember her mother's words from last night. "What if this is your chance?" And then she began to play. The first notes of Chopin's Ballad No. 1 in G minor filled the room. Maria's fingers moved across the keys, finding their way through the gentle opening. As the piece progressed, growing more complex, she made a small mistake. A wrong note that made her heart skip. But she pushed forward, not allowing herself to stop. The music began to take over. Maria forgot about the judges, the competition, even the room around her. It was just her and the piano now, speaking to each other through Chopin's beautiful language. Her body swayed slightly as she played the more emotional passages, her fingers flying during the difficult runs. When she reached the dramatic climax of the piece, she poured everything into it. All the years of putting her dreams aside, all the double shifts at the cafe, All the nights she'd been too tired to even look at her piano. It wasn't perfect. Her technique was rusty in places, and she knew she missed a few notes in the most challenging sections. But she played with her whole heart, and she could feel the music living through her. As the final notes faded away, Maria became aware of the room again. Her hands were trembling slightly as she placed them in her lap. There was a moment of silence. "Where did you study?" the older judge asked, leaning forward. "I had a scholarship to the community conservatory," Maria replied honestly. "But I had to leave during my second year." "And you haven't performed since then?" the younger judge asked, frowning. "No, sir, not formally." "You're a waitress now?" the older judge asked, looking at his notes. Maria nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, at Cafe Bella downtown." The judges exchanged glances. Eleanor's face remained impassive, but Maria thought she saw the corner of her mouth twitch upward slightly. "Thank you, Ms. Santos," the older judge said. "We'll be in touch about the results by tomorrow evening." Maria stood, her legs still unsteady, and bowed slightly before walking out. Once the door closed behind her, she let out a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "How'd it go?" asked a woman waiting in the hallway. "I have no idea," Maria answered truthfully. Outside in the lobby, Mrs. Chen was waiting, reading a magazine. She looked up when Maria approached. "You finish?" "How you do?" "I played," Maria said simply. "It wasn't perfect, but I played." Mrs. Chen nodded approvingly. "Not about perfect. About making music." She stood, tucking the magazine into her purse. "Now we celebrate." "Celebrate what?" "I don't even know if I passed the audition." "We celebrate courage," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "Takes courage to try again." As they walked out of the concert hall, Maria's phone buzzed with a text from Tony. "How'd it go?" "Everyone's dying to know." Maria looked at the message, trying to decide how to respond. Finally, she typed, "I'll tell you at work tomorrow. But whatever happens next, thank you for making me go." That night, Maria sat at her piano again, playing softly. The piece sounded different to her now. Not just notes to be mastered, but a story to be told. Her story. She played until her eyes grew heavy, the music carrying her fears and hopes into the quiet apartment. Tomorrow would bring the judge's decision. But tonight, for the first time in years, Maria fell asleep feeling like a musician again. The morning after her audition, Maria woke up feeling strangely calm. Whatever happened next, she had played again, really played. She'd faced her fears and the judges and had made it through her piece. As she got ready for her shift at Cafe Bella, she kept catching herself humming parts of the Chopin ballade. The cafe was unusually busy when she arrived. Tony greeted her with a big smile and a knowing look. "What?" Maria asked, tying her apron. "Oh, nothing," Tony said innocently. "Just a lot of people asking about our piano-playing waitress today." Maria looked around and noticed several regulars watching her with interest. Even Hector, the usually grumpy cook, poked his head out from the kitchen to give her a thumbs up. "Word gets around," Tony explained. "Mrs. Chen might have made some phone calls, and I might have mentioned it to a few customers." Maria shook her head, embarrassed but touched. "There's nothing to tell yet. I won't know the results until tonight. So what? You did it. That's worth celebrating." As Maria made her way through the cafe, taking orders and delivering food, customers kept stopping her to ask about the competition. The elderly man who recognized her humming Debussy days ago wanted to know what piece she had played. A group of college students asked if she would perform for them sometime. Even the woman who always ordered salad with dressing on the side gave her an encouraging smile. "I had no idea so many people cared," Maria said during a quiet moment with Tony. He shrugged. "People connect over food and stories. You've been serving these folks for years. They feel like they know you. Plus, everyone loves an underdog." The day passed quickly, Maria's mind drifting frequently to her email and phone, checking for notifications. By closing time, there was still no word from the competition organizers. They said by tonight, Maria told Tony as they cleaned up. What if they forgot? "They didn't forget," Tony assured her. "These things always run late." Maria's phone buzzed as she was wiping down the last table. Her heart jumped, but it was just her mother. "Any news?" her mom asked when Maria called her back. "Not yet," Maria sighed. "Maybe I didn't make it. Or maybe they're still deliberating because you impressed them," her mother suggested. "Either way, I'm proud of you." After saying goodnight to Tony, Maria walked home slowly, enjoying the cool evening air. The city lights were coming on, and street musicians were setting up on corners. She stopped to listen to an older man playing guitar, his case open for tips. There was something freeing about his performance. He played for the joy of it, not for judges or scores. Maria dropped a few dollars in his case. He nodded his thanks without stopping his song. The music followed her down the block, a simple melody that somehow matched her walking rhythm. At home, she checked her email again. Nothing. She showered and changed into comfortable clothes, then sat at her piano. She began to play, not Chopin this time, but a simpler piece she'd loved as a child. The familiar notes comforted her. Her phone rang, startling her. An unknown number. Hello? She answered, her voice tighter than she intended. Ms. Santos, this is David Chen from the regional piano competition. Maria's hand gripped the phone. Yes, this is she. I'm calling on behalf of the judging panel. We'd like to inform you that after careful consideration, you have been selected to advance to the finals. Maria sat down hard on the piano bench. I'm sorry, what? The man's chuckle was warm. You passed the audition, Ms. Santos. The judges were quite impressed by your performance, particularly considering your unconventional background. I made it to the finals, Maria repeated, still not quite believing it. Yes. The finals will be held next Saturday evening at the Grand Hall. You'll perform the same piece, but this time for an audience. We'll email you the details tomorrow. Congratulations. Thank you, Maria managed to say. Thank you so much. After hanging up, she sat in stunned silence for a full minute. Then she leapt up and did a little dance around her apartment, her heart racing. She'd made it. She, Maria Santos, waitress at Cafe Bella, was a finalist in the regional piano competition. She called her mother first, both of them crying happy tears over the phone. Then she texted Tony, I made it to the finals! His response came immediately. Knew it. Bringing champagne tomorrow. Maria was about to text Mrs. Chen when there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find her neighbor standing there in her bathrobe, eyes bright with anticipation. I hear phone ring, Mrs. Chen said. News? Maria broke into a wide smile. I made it. Mrs. Chen let out a delighted shout and hugged Maria tightly. I know it. I know when I hear you play. She pulled back, holding Maria by the shoulders. Now the real work begin. What do you mean? Finals much harder. Big stage, many people watching. You practice double now, Maria laughed. You're right. I need to practice more. Mrs. Chen nodded firmly. I help, I make food, you practice. No distractions. The next week flew by in a blur. Maria took time off from the cafe, Tony insisted, to focus on preparing for the finals. She practiced for hours each day, refining her technique, working on the sections that had given her trouble during the audition. True to her word, Mrs. Chen appeared regularly with homemade meals. Can't practice hungry, she would say, setting down bowls of soup or plates of dumplings before disappearing to let Maria work. 3 days before the competition, Maria received another surprise visitor. She opened her door to find Eleanor standing there as elegant as ever, even in casual clothes. May I come in? Eleanor asked. Maria stepped aside, suddenly conscious of her small, cluttered apartment. Of course. Sorry about the mess. Eleanor waved away the apology, her eyes immediately finding the piano. You've been practicing. Every day, Maria confirmed. I still can't believe I made it to the finals. I can, Eleanor said simply. She sat on the couch, her posture perfect even there. I came to give you some advice if you're willing to hear it. Maria nodded eagerly. Please. Your technique has rough edges. That's to be expected after years away from serious study. But your musicality, your expression, Eleanor's eyes grew distant. I've judged hundreds of technically perfect performances that didn't move me the way yours did. Maria blushed. Thank you. For the finals, don't try to be perfect, Eleanor continued. That's not what will set you apart. Play with the same honesty you showed in your audition. Let the audience feel what you feel. I'm terrified of playing in front of so many people, Maria admitted. Eleanor smiled. Good, use that. Channel it into your performance. She stood up. I shouldn't stay long. It's not strictly proper for a judge to visit a competitor. But I wanted you to know that you belong in those finals, regardless of your background. After Eleanor left, Maria returned to the piano with renewed determination. She played until her fingers ached, then soaked them in warm water and played some more. The night before the finals, she couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, ran through the piece in her head, second-guessed her tempo choices, and worried about forgetting notes. Around midnight, her phone buzzed with a text from Tony. "Get some sleep. You've got this." Maria smiled in the darkness of her bedroom. So many people believing in her, it was overwhelming in the best possible way. Morning came too quickly. Maria dressed carefully in the new outfit she'd bought for the occasion, a simple but elegant black dress that wouldn't restrict her movement at the piano. Mrs. Chen appeared at her door, promptly at noon. "Car waiting," she announced. "My nephew drive today." "I too nervous," Maria laughed, grateful for the honesty. "That makes two of us." Mrs. Chen's nephew turned out to be a quiet young man who drove much more carefully than his aunt. He dropped them off at the grand hall with a gentle good luck to Maria. The backstage area was buzzing with activity. Volunteers directed finalists to a waiting room where other performers were warming up or sitting quietly with headphones. Maria found a corner and did some finger exercises, trying to calm her racing heart. A volunteer with a clipboard approached her. "Maria Santos? You're on fourth after the intermission. There's a practice room down the hall if you'd like to warm up properly." Maria nodded gratefully and followed the directions to a small room with an upright piano. She played scales, then parts of her piece, not wanting to exhaust herself before the actual performance. As she practiced, she thought about Eleanor's advice. Don't try to be perfect. Play with honesty. She closed her eyes and let herself feel the music, remembering why she had fallen in love with the piano in the first place, the way it could express what words couldn't. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. 15 minutes until intermission, a volunteer called. Maria gathered her sheet music, still a security blanket though she knew the piece by heart, and made her way back to the waiting area. Through a stage door, she could hear applause as the third performer finished their piece. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a 15-minute intermission," an announcer's voice declared. "Please return to your seats afterward for our final four performers." Maria peeked through the stage door. The hall was magnificent, with tiered seating and perfect acoustics. A beautiful grand piano stood center stage under soft spotlights. The audience was larger than she had imagined, at least 300 people. Among the crowd making their way to the lobby, she spotted Tony with a group from the cafe. Mrs. Chen was sitting near the front, looking nervous but proud. And in the judges section, Eleanor sat with the other judges, her face professionally neutral. Maria took a deep breath. In 15 minutes, she would walk onto that stage. She would sit at that piano, and she would play, not for the judges, not for the audience, but for herself, for the girl who had once dreamed of music being her life. "Ms. Santos," a stagehand appeared at her elbow. "You're up after intermission. Are you ready?" Maria nodded, surprising herself with the certainty she felt. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." The 15-minute intermission felt both endless and too short. Maria paced the small backstage area, her heart fluttering in her chest like a trapped bird. Around her, the other finalists were lost in their own worlds, some listening to recordings with headphones, others doing breathing exercises, one young man shaking his hands vigorously to keep them loose. A volunteer appeared with bottled water for everyone. 2 minutes, she announced. Maria took a long drink, then closed her eyes. She thought of her mother's voice on the phone. "I'm proud of you." She thought of Mrs. Chen knocking on the wall whenever she played something beautiful. She thought of Tony rearranging the cafe schedule without hesitation so she could be here today. The stagehand touched her elbow gently. "The audience is returning to their seats. Are you ready?" Maria nodded, suddenly calm. "I'm ready." She watched from the wings as the announcer returned to the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the finals of the regional piano competition. Our next performer is Maria Santos, playing Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor." A polite round of applause followed as Maria walked onto the stage. The lights were brighter than she expected, making it hard to see individual faces in the audience. She approached the grand piano, adjusting the bench carefully before sitting down. The hall fell silent. Maria placed her hands on the keys, took a deep breath, and began to play. The opening notes were gentle, questioning. Maria let them float into the perfect acoustics of the hall, establishing the melody that would transform throughout the piece. As the music built, she leaned into the emotional shifts, letting her body move naturally with the changing dynamics. She wasn't thinking about technique now, or about the judges watching her every move. She was telling a story through Chopin's notes, her story. The years of practicing as a child, the scholarship that had seemed like a miracle, the heartbreak of having to leave school when her mother got sick, the long shifts at the cafe, and now this unexpected second chance. When she reached the difficult runs in the middle section, her fingers responded with a sureness that surprised her. Hours of recent practice had rebuilt her muscle memory. But there was something else too. A newfound confidence that carried her through the challenging passages. The piece grew more intense, building toward its dramatic climax. Maria's hands moved across the keys with growing intensity, drawing out the full voice of the magnificent piano. This wasn't her dusty upright at home. This instrument responded to her lightest touch, allowing her to shape the music exactly as she heard it in her head. As she approached the final, thunderous section, Maria gave herself completely to the music. Her fingers flew across the keys, her body swaying with the powerful emotions of the piece. The last chords rang out through the hall, strong and definitive, then silence. For a moment Maria sat perfectly still, her hands resting on the keys, her eyes closed. Then she heard it, the applause. She opened her eyes and stood, turning to face the audience. The lights made it hard to see, but she could make out people standing, Mrs. Chen among them, clapping enthusiastically. Maria bowed, a smile breaking across her face. She had done it. Whatever the judges decided, she had played her best when it mattered most. She made her way backstage on shaky legs, accepting congratulations from the other competitors. The next performer was already being announced as Maria found a quiet corner to sit and catch her breath. The remaining performances passed in a blur. Maria listened appreciatively to each one, recognizing the tremendous talent and years of training evident in every note. The violinist who played after her was particularly impressive, drawing sounds from his instrument that seemed almost human in their expressiveness. After the final performer, the audience applauded warmly. The announcer returned to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the judges will now deliberate. Please enjoy refreshments in the lobby. Results will be announced in approximately 30 minutes. The waiting was the hardest part. Maria paced the backstage area, too nervous to join the crowd in the lobby. The other finalists chatted quietly or sat alone with their thoughts. No one mentioned the results, but the tension was palpable. A familiar figure appeared in the doorway, Tony, holding a bouquet of flowers. "You're not supposed to be back here," Maria said, but she was smiling. "I know people," Tony said with a wink, handing her the flowers. "These are from everyone at the cafe. You were amazing out there." "You think so? The others were so good." "Stop that," Tony said firmly. "You belonged on that stage every bit as much as they did. Maybe more." Maria hugged him, careful not to crush the flowers. "Thank you. For everything." "Don't get sappy on me now," Tony said gruffly, but he was smiling. "I've got to get back out there." The whole crew is waiting to hear the results. After Tony left, Maria sat quietly, trying not to watch the clock. The 30 minutes felt like hours. Finally, a volunteer appeared. "Finalists to the stage, please. They're ready to announce the results." Maria's heart leapt into her throat as she followed the others to the wings. One by one, they were called to stand on stage in the order they had performed. The judges sat at their table, faces unreadable. The announcer approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the judges have made their decision. In third place," Maria held her breath as names were called. "Third place went to the violinist who had played after her. Second place." In second place, Maria Santos. For a moment, the words didn't register. Then the audience was applauding and someone was gently pushing her forward. Maria stepped up to receive a silver medal and a certificate, shaking hands with each judge. Eleanor's eyes shone with pride as she squeezed Maria's hand. The first place winner was a young man who had played a complex Liszt piece with technical brilliance. As they all stood together for photos, he leaned over to Maria. "Your Chopin made my mother cry," he whispered. "That's never happened before." After the ceremony, the lobby was crowded with people congratulating the winners. Maria found herself surrounded by the cafe crew, all talking at once. Mrs. Chen pushed through the crowd to hug her tightly. "Second place," she exclaimed. "Better than first?" "First place, too much pressure." Maria laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. She looked around at the faces of people who had supported her, some she had known for years. Others like Eleanor, who had entered her life only recently, and felt a wave of gratitude. A tall man in an expensive suit approached her. "Ms. Santos, I'm Robert Lynn from the West Side Conservatory. We sponsor the competition every year." He handed her a business card. "Your performance was remarkable. I'd like to talk to you about a special scholarship program we have for exceptional adult students." Maria stared at the card in shock. "A scholarship?" "For those who show unusual promise, yes. It would cover tuition and include a stipend for living expenses. We'd need to discuss the details, but," he smiled, "we believe talent like yours deserves to be nurtured, regardless of conventional timing." As the crowd thinned out, Eleanor found Maria sitting quietly on a bench, still processing a